In this video, I will give an explanation and some examples of why the ancient Latin language is an alarm language and why the alarm sounds increased motivation and drive in the ancient Roman people, allowing them to be highly industrious, productive, and allowing them to develop a high-level civilization which formed the basis of our modern world. So let's have a look at alarm sounds in nature, and then let's compare these alarm sounds to the alarm sounds found in the ancient Roman language or ancient Latin language. The first example is an alarm or distress call produced by a magpie bird. Next, we have a distress call or alarm sound produced by a rat. The next example of a distress call or alarm call is that of a koala. And the final example is that of a cottontail rabbit. We can see that the distress or alarm sounds have a lot of similarity to that of a human cry or scream. And here is an example of a human scream. When listening to or when producing distress or alarm calls, we become somewhat distressed or alarmed ourselves. In fact, alarm or distress calls automatically prepare us for fight or flight, where a person or animal becomes more alert, focused, and attentive to the environment. Here we have an example of such behavior in a deer, where it's listening to distress calls, and you can see how its head is raised so it can see better. Ears are also raised to focus on the sounds. Its eyes are widely open to maximize its vision, and its movements are nervous and very alert. The question then is, did such distress or alarm calls exist in ancient Roman language? The simple answer is yes, they did exist in less extreme form. So normal alarm or distress calls sound like ah, ee, ow, I, a, an. However, the less intense version of these distress or alarm calls are e, ow, I, a, an. So let's look at some examples of ancient Latin words where there are these type of alarm sounds.
Da, da, da.
The first classical Latin word is da, meaning give. It is a command word, and the a is pronounced in a prolonged way. And it is this a sound which is the distress or alarm part. Ah, 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 ah. The second classical Latin word is qui, meaning which, and the e is long with a rising and falling tone. It is the we that is the distress or alarm part. We.
Tombst, tombst, tombst.
The third word is tombst. Tomb means yours and est means be. So tombst is a combination of two words, tomb and est, that merge together. The part of tombst is and that is the intense distress or alarm sound. The final word from classical Latin is caelo, meaning heaven. There are two parts of this word which are alarm or distress sounds. They are I and O. I. Oh. The ancient Romans pronounced words which had high concentration of alarm or distress sounds. Here is a small excerpt of a famous speech by Cicero in the 1st century BC. The speech is known as the first oration against Catalina. Note that almost every word contains alarm sounds, unlike today's Italian, which contains relatively small amount of alarm sounds.
Quousque tanda putera Catalina patientia nostra, quando etiam furorista tus nos eludet, quad fine se frenata iactabit audacia.
Ancient Latin language has a large number of words with alarm or distress parts in them, and these sounds made the ancient Latin society more focused and attentive, just like the deer in the following video is more focused, attentive, and alert to danger when listening to the alarm calls. So you have this vast empire spanning continents with its complex infrastructure and various systems and organizations which kept it functioning. The Roman Empire was so advanced that the modern world was only able to organize in similar way in the last few centuries.
Unbelievably, some of the techniques used in Rome would not be replicated in major European capitals until the 19th century. It was so far ahead of its time that it's almost difficult to fathom.
So the Roman civilization was going fine for a number of centuries, reaching its golden age around the 1st century AD. And it keeps going for another 2 centuries or so, where you still see high quality construction, such as the Colosseum and the baths of Caracalla. And then Rome slowly moves into its decline period, which spirals downwards in an unstoppable way. You see decline, for instance, in its art and its ability to organize its army. the Roman civilization struggles to survive for a century or so, and finally, towards the end of the 5th century AD, it falls. It breaks down into various warring kingdoms. So what happened? The answer is the ancient Roman language starts to undergo changes and it loses the alarm sounds, gradually weakening the empire. As the language loses most of its alarm sounds, the society is no longer capable to be organized and to maintain the structure of the vast Roman Empire. What are the changes that occur in the classical Latin language which causes the language to lose its alarm sounds? The diphthong sounds such as ow, l, I, which are alarm sounds, became single short vowels such as e or e. For instance, the word Caesar was originally pronounced as Kaiser. However, during the 5th century AD, it becomes Caesar, where the I becomes an e sound. Or another example from the prayer Pater Noster is the word Kailis, meaning heaven.
And in Kailis, the AE is pronounced I, as in Kaisar. It's a diphthong, two letters coming together to form a distinct sound. In medieval Latin, this became Caelis. So just in towards the end of the Roman Empire, and the I sound turned into an air sound.
A further example of the loss of alarm sounds can be seen in the word paucum, meaning little, where both ow and sounds are alarm sounds. Then around the 4th and 5th century AD, both ow and becomes a short o sound, where the word is pronounced as poco, losing the alarm quality as short o is not an alarm sound. In a similar way, long vowels become short. For instance, the word dar, which means give, becomes dar or dare. And in this case, the short a and e sounds are no longer alarm sounds.
In summary, ancient Roman society was highly productive and well organized because the alarm calls in its language caused the ancient Roman society to be highly focused, attentive, and worried.
The question that arises in our time is, would Latin-speaking countries become highly prosperous, advanced, and industrious if they were to adopt alarm sounds as existed in the ancient Latin language? If you would like to investigate this idea a little bit more closely, please check one of my book versions on the topic. Evolutionary Alarm Sounds Within Languages is the first version. Frighten the World into Prosperity is the second version. Motivate Poor Countries to Develop is the third version. I would like to conclude this video with a thank you, or as was pronounced in classical Latin, gratiai.